Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 478. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. James, you ready to play some baseball?
Dude, I'm ready to play some baseball.
Here's the pitch.
That was pretty awful, Kyle.
I liked it. I was a fan of that.
I think it was better than our first attempt.
It was, for sure. Yeah, okay. So I guess do I hit it or do I catch it? Am I the hitter or the catcher in this scenario?
You know, I'm throwing it to you, and you do with it what you want.
Yeah, the hitter. What are the
what do
you think they're
batter?
called? Oh, batter. All right. I guess batter's the proper term. You can tell how much baseball I watch, for sure. Thanks, Kyle. Nice soft lob to me. We have a little bit of housekeeping to do before we jump into our movie for this week and our list for this week. Don't forget, you can always check out the podcast on Cinereelists, on the Cinereelists YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type Cinereelists. There's a video version of this podcast. So if you'd like to watch us while you listen to us, you can do that over on YouTube. We also have a Patreon account at patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast on Patreon, get extra after show audio, as well as other Cinerealist swag. We also need your help, desperately need your help with our Apple podcast reviews. We're trying to get to that magic number of 200 Apple podcast reviews. That makes us Rotten Tomatoes qualified. It is literally the only qualification we do not already qualify for. That's a lot of the word qualify, but we've hit the bar everywhere else except for the Apple podcast reviews. And it's essentially because we've recorded like 460 episodes with almost never asking people to leave podcast reviews for us on Apple. But we're asking now. So if you have not done that, go to Google, type Cinereelists Apple Podcasts. It will take you right there. Open up your Apple Podcast app on your phone. Go to the Cinereelists entry, scroll down, click leave a review there. Leave us a review, at least a star rating, 5 stars only, please. Or if you leave text in your review, we will read it on the podcast and discuss it as well. One more thing. We also invite all listeners to send us an email. Send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, all of those kinds of things. We love getting via email. In fact, we got a couple emails this week from a couple listeners. We're going to read them and discuss them right now, starting with Logan. And I believe Kyle has that review for us.
I do have an email from Logan. He writes, "Yo, James, Zach, and Kyle." The yo's got a couple extra O's there. 2 thoughts. There's a lot of exclamation points in this email too, so he's very excited. Thought number 1. He says, "Zach sometimes sounds a little bit like Paul Rudd. Have you guys noticed? His voice, inflection, tone, etc. It makes me laugh when he says something that sounds particularly Paul Rudd-ish."
I have to be honest, I don't see it at all or hear it.
You know, I really think we need Scotty to weigh in on this.
I emailed Scotty actually about it because I thought he'd be curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say anything about it. I sent him the email. He only responded to thought number 2.
Okay.
But what do you guys think? Do I sound Paul Ruddish? I don't know what that would be.
Not to me, but I've heard
No.
you way more than I've heard Paul Rudd. So if anything, Paul Rudd sounds like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look at us. Look at us. Who'd have thought?
I mean, I'm not looking at Paul Rudd, that's for sure.
Wait, is that a good thing? Or
No, it's not a good thing.
but that was an insult?
No, it's not an insult. It's just an observation.
More like
All right.
Ed Helms.
Yeah, more of Ed Helms. Maybe a Ben Stiller on a bad day. I'm not sure.
Sure. Or what's the one you get that you hate, Zach? Steve-O?
I don't hate. I have definitely gotten Steve-O.
Right.
I don't hate it.
You don't hate it. Okay.
What do I get? I've gotten a few times. Is it something Myers? Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers.
Yeah, I've gotten him.
Sense.
I bet
Kyle.
you in high school and Seth Meyers in high school look the same.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Kyle, you get mistaken for somebody, right?
Yeah, I get mistaken for Obama's budget secretary, Steve Orzag, all the time. Or
All
Peter
the
Orzag,
time.
sorry. I mean, I'm walking down the street, people are like, Peter, you left DC? I'm like, no, sorry, it's Kyle.
Yeah, right. Sure, that happens.
Yeah, it's more of a curse, to be honest.
Sure. In my younger years, I used to get Tom Green because I had a goatee, just like Tom Green. I'm tall and lanky like Tom Green. I think those are the primary reasons. And since I got the beard, I get a lot of ZZ Top, even though ZZ Top's beards are much, much bigger than mine.
And like more reddish than yours.
For sure. And
they're not red anymore.
They're not red anymore?
I mean, unless they dye those things.
They still have a reddish tint to them, but they're mostly white. I'll give you that. And then lately, I've gotten a lot of David Crowder, who's like a Christian musician.
Worship leader. Yeah.
And
you
that
don't
was a
look
new one to
anything
me.
like David Crowder. He just has a big beard.
He just has a big beard. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
James, I think that really means is that when people meet you, all they notice is your beard. Like they don't really take anything else in about you.
I mean, not too many people have a beard as big as mine, so I understand it. I'm not mad.
And besides ZZ Top, David Crowder.
I mean, look at me. What would you say is my defining feature? That I'm a white guy? No.
If you ask my daughter,
it's going to be
your
the
dog.
beard. Yeah, exactly.
It's your dog.
It's dog first, then beard, then white guy. Tall white guy. Was that it for Logan's email? I don't remember.
That was part one.
Okay.
I guess we all agree that we do not hear any Paul Rudd-isms within Zach's speech.
I'll have to look for it from now on.
He's gonna look for it. I don't know what the Paul Rudd-isms are, but he wasn't talking about looks. He doesn't know what I look like. He's talking about
it's about how you sound.
Like Paul Rudd.
Exactly. I think Logan needs to make a supercut for us.
I would love that. But don't do that, Logan.
All right.
It's not worth your time.
Logan, please do that. Point 2. How exactly does one earn the title friend of the show? Is this reserved only for people you know in real life? I've been listening for a long time, emailed a bunch, talked with you guys on Twitter, and even a Patreon, and was even a Patreon for a while. That's important. For a while. That means not current. Please consider this my official application for being considered a friend of the show. And then there's a emoji with a laughing, crying face. So yeah,
Sure.
What defines a friend of the show?
Well, this is the thing that Scotty weighed in on. And
Okay.
he's undeniably a friend of the show, I would say, right?
Mm-hmm, I'd say so.
Yes.
And he says it brings up a lot of issues. One, is there an application? 2, does it focus more about the movies? Or is it more about friendship? Or is it more about the show? Like what part of friend of the show should we really be focusing on to decide who's a friend of the show?
I think he has a good point. We do have a core group of people who interact with us the most. They write in, they tweet at us, like on Instagram. So maybe there are
Don't plug Instagram.
Please follow Instagram.
No. Do not unfollow Instagram right now.
We kind of have another
threshold.
We kind of have another group of people too that we know in real life that come on the podcast and have consistently over the last few years that even if some of them aren't weekly listeners, I would still consider a friend of the show. So, I mean, it's tough. I'm not sure there is a clearly defined line. It's more just what comes out of our mouths at the moment, right? There's no like official distinction or anything.
I love how you guys are taking this so seriously.
I mean,
Your response should be like, well, if there's anyone who's a friend of the show, it's Logan.
Well, of course Logan is, for sure.
but if we just start handing out friend of the show left and right, what's the value in it? Like, I don't think Logan wants everyone to be friend of the show, because then he's like, well, what's the point?
Well, if you ask, you can certainly be a friend of the show. I mean,
So that's all it takes is you have to ask?
sure. Why not?
Wow. Wow.
What does
okay,
it cost
great.
us?
I
costs
think
us
at
nothing.
Cred.
the $20 Patreon level is you can be considered an official Cinereelist.
Is it really?
Well, yeah, because my brother paid to be an official Cinereelist.
Oh yeah, he's the third Cinereelist. Kyle's technically
Yeah.
the fourth, I think.
Yeah, technically, he's the
Technically.
fourth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right.
He got
For
a
sure.
certificate and everything.
I
Did
think
you
we
get a
also
certificate, Kyle.
No, I get nothing
Yeah,
besides talking to you guys.
you want a certificate? $20 a month.
At least. Oh, man.
I think
I
we also
canceled
have a
my Patreon
super
account.
fan. We also have a super fan account as well. A super fan
Yeah,
level.
we do. Superfan Mindy.
Rep, right. Created
So-
I don't
specifically
think
for
listener
Superfan
Megan
Mindy.
listens anymore.
No?
I don't think so. I don't
Oh,
get
well.
like ranty voicemails anymore complaining about some opinion you had.
Well, that's a bummer. I'm sad for you. I'm sure you loved getting those.
I did.
All right. I think we need to take a vote. Do we accept Logan as friend of the show?
Oh, Kyle, you're going to make some of us a bad guy? That's awful.
I mean, I'm going to put you on the record. There's no secret ballot here.
All right. Well, you vote first then.
I give it a yes.
Zach? I want to be the
Logan,
tiebreaker.
Logan, already on my email, I flag his emails as Logan, friend of the show, peak
Oh, good. I don't have to vote then. There we go.
for months now.
So that's is that a yes, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay. So that, and
He's-
James, you're abstaining.
when I retire, he's filling in for me.
So, Logan, you're safe. I don't even have to vote. You got a 2/3 vote right here. That's a majority. You're a friend of the show. Good job.
Okay. And we are now retiring the phrase friend of the show.
Never to be said again.
I'm just kidding.
And we got another listener email this week as well. This one's from Troy. Definitely a friend of the show. Troy,
Oh, yeah.
That's a
What?
bad word.
oh, sorry. Troy from Canada. Zach's
What's the
got
bad
this
word?
email.
The F of the S.
Oh my goodness. Troy Carruthers sent his last 10 top 10. Yeah, he's got some movies he doesn't like, like movies he hates. His number 10 is Sightless. He gave it a 1 star. He called it weird. I do not recommend it all. A Week Away is 1.5 stars. Practical Magic is 2 stars. Things Heard and Seen, which I think I was curious about, he gave 2.5 stars. So it was tepid.
Mm.
But once he starts getting to his number 6, Cavalcade, he says, Zach, I also decided to watch more of the Best Picture winners that I haven't seen yet. He's off to a slow start, but better late than never. So that's kind of fun that he's doing that now. Anyways, he starts really liking movies around his 3 spot. That's On the Basis of Sex, which is about the notorious RBG. He put Nobody at number 2 with 4 stars, and his number 1 was News of the World from 2020. My question for Troy, if you like News of the World, what do you think of The Postman? Because I feel like those two are very similar movies. So write us back, Troy. Let us know what you think of The Postman.
I haven't seen Postman in a long time, but I have a feeling News of the World holds up a little better.
It's curious that you feel that way, James. I'm shocked.
News of the
I know.
World has 100% less Tom Petty.
Agreed. Is Tom Petty
What's-
alive?
No, he
No.
died.
Tom
What's
Petty.
What's wrong with Tom Petty? You don't like Tom Petty?
No, I
Kyle?
like Tom Petty. I think one of the benefits of the Postman is that Tom Petty appears like out of nowhere in the final 30 minutes of the movie.
Postman or Postman?
The Postman.
Isn't the Postman? Wouldn't it be a capital M if it's the Postman?
What?
It's,
No, it's one word.
It's the same thing. Postman or postman.
Postman.
It's just
Postman.
your inflection.
No, postman versus
No,
postman.
the postman.
Those are very different things. Postman is two separate words. Post and man.
The
Postman.
mailman is one word.
Is it?
That's a letter carrier, Zach.
I'm just saying mailman is one word.
It's just enunciation, James. That's all.
According to James, it would be mailman.
If they remade postman today, would it be post person? One word?
Postal carrier.
Postal carrier?
Yeah.
All right. I'm down with that.
This is all addressed in the film. I mean, it goes very deep into this kind of
gender
stuff.
issues.
Yeah,
Gender
for
title
sure.
issues. Yeah.
It's very progressive.
They were thinking a lot about that in the early 90s, for sure.
Yeah. Do you know I read the book, The Postman?
No. Before or after
Because I
you
liked
watched
the
the
movie.
movie?
After.
Okay.
For sure after. And it wasn't that great. It's
Unlike
weird.
that thrilling movie, The Postman.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank you, Logan and Troy, for the emails. We appreciate it. You too can send us an email. heyguys@cinereelists.com. Do it. We also have a check-in this week. Kyle, hit it.
I do have a check-in. James, this is actually a check-in for you. And
I don't have a check-in. You have a check-in. So
I'm directing this check-in towards you.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You and I are going to play a quick game of Jacob's Ladder here.
Okay.
And here's what you have to tell me.
Remind me how you play Jacob's Ladder.
James.
I'm going to give you...
You're going to lose friend of the show.
Yeah. You're just going to be called host.
I'm fine with that.
I'm going to start giving you a list of actors one at a time.
Okay.
And all these actors have something in common. And you need to tell me what it is. And I'm going to give you a hint. They all were in the same TV miniseries together.
You're going to give me a series of actors. I'm going to try to guess a title, and they were all in the same miniseries together.
They were all in the same miniseries, correct?
Okay. All right.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
We're going to go kind of fast here. I'm going to give you one if you don't give me the answer. This is a quick game of Jacob's Ladder.
All good. Hit me.
All right. Simon Pegg.
I know him. Spaced.
Nope. Michael Fassbender.
No clue. Next.
James McAvoy.
X-Men, the new class, first
No,
class.
this is a TV miniseries.
Oh, this is a TV miniseries.
Yep.
All right.
Jimmy Fallon.
I have to think of a TV miniseries with Michael
I know
Fassbender
it's
in
Roots.
Yeah, with all these people are in the same TV miniseries.
it. Called Roots. Is this a
No,
series
this is
that's
not-
already come out?
Yes, this already came out. Okay, Jimmy Fallon.
Nope.
Tom Hardy.
Nope.
Donnie
Don't get it till the last name.
Donnie Wahlberg.
Nope.
The guy who played the grandson in that Mickey Rooney Christmas movie that Zach made us watch.
Oh, well, then I know exactly what it is. No, I have no clue.
Ron Livingston.
Was this some kind of like charity special or what?
No,
I don't know what
this
this
is
was. I
this
don't
is a
know what
narrative
this could
series.
be.
Okay, last one. This might give it away.
What year? Can you give me a year?
Like 2000.
It would have to be because
Okay.
with this group of people, it would have to be something very obscure. Okay,
Here's
more.
your last one. David Schwimmer.
He's the top build.
No, he's not the top build.
Okay. No clue.
Band of Brothers.
Oh, yeah, they were all in
Yeah,
that.
they were
I
all in
agree.
that. I
Sure.
rewatched this recently, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Simon Pegg. And like he like literally like walks in the scene, says a sentence, walks away. And then like I'm watching another episode, and there's James McAvoy for the one episode. Like Michael Fass, I'm like, oh my god, who's in this series?
Mhm.
Jimmy Fallon's out there driving a truck around delivering ammo. It is like the most random grouping of actors. We're all in Band of Brothers, and there's
Well,
all
they
these
just needed-
names.
They had so many characters, right? So they
Yeah.
had to have all these different actors that were acting at the time.
But it's crazy like how many of these actors who had bit parts are now like household names 15, 20 years later.
Mhm.
Well, I was watching the original auditions for the American Office, And so these are all people that are like applying to be Jim, right, in the office.
Mhm.
And every single one of them are famous comedians now. But back then they were still auditioning for random sitcoms, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like Patton Oswalt and like all these different people. Bob Odenkirk applied to be, one of the roles. So it's just like so interesting that like these people are super famous now and they were all vying for the same parts back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, of the actors that you just mentioned, probably the most famous at the time was David Schwimmer, I imagine.
And he's in like 3 episodes of Band of Brothers.
Yeah. I love Band of Brothers. Talk about a project that has stood the test of time. Like, you can watch it today and it feels like something that could have come out yesterday.
I did watch it last week and it holds up so well.
Yeah.
I watched
For
like
sure.
2.5 episodes of it and I never finished it. I meant to, I guess. I just wasn't.
You should stick with it. It gets really good.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. The Pacific, which came out a couple years later from the same crew, telling kind of a different era of the same war, is not as good, but also interesting. But Band of Brothers is very solid, for sure.
It's almost like Saving Private Ryan, the TV show.
Yeah. And it gets, from my memory, Kyle, you correct me if I'm wrong, it gets more big budget as it goes along.
I would say, I think actually the biggest battles are in the first couple episodes, because that's when they're doing Normandy and some of the other big battles. But they definitely, so it follows, it's like based on true stories, following real soldiers, a little fictionalized account of it. But it keeps it going through the whole series. I think the budget was over $100 million for this 10 episode run, which is like Game of Thrones money.
Yeah, for sure. And you're talking 20 years ago, maybe more at this point?
Yeah, about 20 years ago. Yep.
Crazy. All right, well, good check-in. Awesome. It's kind of like when have you watched the Thin Red Line? That's another war movie, has Mel Gibson in it. That's another one where if you watch it, it's just like one actor after another popping into that movie.
Wait, hold on.
Like,
Mel Gibson is not Red Line.
Maybe
every other male
line.
actor from the 90s is in the Thin Red Line, but not Mel Gibson.
I think he was in We Were Soldiers or something.
I am thinking We Were Soldiers. Yes.
Yeah. No, the Thin Red Line has George Clooney, like third build, and he has a 5-minute scene in the third act.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking We Were Soldiers.
There are a ton of people in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
In Thin Red Line or We Were Soldiers?
Thin Red Line has Jim Caviezel, Sean Penn. Who else?
Oh, I bet you Adrian Brody's in it.
Yeah, Adrian Brody. Yeah, for sure.
Is John C. Reilly in it?
John Cusack.
John Cusack. Who else?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Early 2000s, late 90s war movies. They knew how to pick them, for sure, around that time.
Jared Leto.
Well,
Nick Nolte.
They can't all be
John
winners.
C. Reilly.
Oh, yeah, John C. Reilly. There you
John
go.
Travolta. Oh, but there is a guy named Will Wallace. So that's the Mel Gibson connection.
William Wallace, yep. I knew it was in there somewhere. Good check-in, Kyle.
Right.
Thanks for that.
Of course.
We're gonna jump into our review for the week. It's a movie that's available now on Netflix and will be available on Netflix till the end of time. They own it. It's a movie called The Mitchells versus the Machines. Here's a clip.
Sorry, super into dinosaurs. Check out this pencil topper. Do you want one?
No! I hate dinosaurs and I hate you! Bye forever!
The Mitchells versus the Machines is an animated... The Mitchells versus the Machines is a computer animated science fiction comedy film directed by Michael Rionda, starring Abby Jacobson, Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, Eric Andre, Olivia Colman, Fred Armisen, John Legend, Chrissy Teigen, Conan O'Brien, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for The Mitchells versus the Machines is: a quirky, dysfunctional family's road trip is upended when they find themselves in the middle of the robot apocalypse and suddenly become humanity's unlikeliest last hope. What did you guys think of The Mitchells versus the Machines? Anybody want to
Kyle,
go
why don't
first?
you go first?
Thank you. I thought this was a really fun movie. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it with my son, and he was totally into it. Especially the robots were by far his favorite part. He does that really cute thing now where like he sees something on screen. He's like, oh, I'm that one. No, I'm that one. No, I'm that one. Like he wants to be a part of the movie. So
That's fun.
yeah, we were digging it. I mean, story wise, like I thought the robot apocalypse twist was kind of fun. It had a zombie apocalypse feel to it without being, too gory or, being able to still be family friendly. It definitely emotionally kind of felt like a standard kids movie about, like, why don't my parents get me, and having that conflict and then, reconciling that. But I thought it was still well executed. But for me, what really stood out was the animation. I believe this is produced by Chris Lord and Stephen Lord and Miller, the team that did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And even though the animation wasn't quite as creative as Spider-Verse, it still was different enough. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that a lot of the characters had kind of fuzzy edges to them. There weren't always clean lines, which I thought was kind of a cool effect. And then also there was like those cool pops of 2D animation throughout the movie, kind of accenting a lot of the emotions of the characters. I thought that was really neat. And it also, I don't know if you guys noticed the soundtrack, but the soundtrack was pretty eclectic, where they were doing things like, Rag Girl music to recent stuff to like Sugar Roses popping up at one point. So I think a lot of times these kid movies can just do a pop of the week style soundtrack, and this one decided to expand out a little bit more. So yeah, I thought this was a super fun watch, and it was an awesome family movie to watch with my son. Zach, what'd you think?
Okay, so this movie I think is being well received pretty much universally, and more power to it. I was excited to watch it without really knowing anything about it, just because of the cast. I like Abby Jacobson a lot from Broad City, and I think there's a lot of talented people involved, including Olivia Colman. I watched this movie, and to be honest, I really did not enjoy myself. I found it quite tedious to watch.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I was actively not enjoying myself and just kind of forcing myself to finish it. I just found it exhausting. I think it has just a manic, chaotic energy to it. I think that's common in lots of animation, but this one much more so. There was a lot of energy and flailing and just chaos kind of at all times in any situation. I did not connect with the family at all. I felt like instead of like, I don't know, the family the movie went out of its way to tell us this is a, dysfunctional family. Like several times in the movie, it says these are the worst, people on earth, the worst family kind of a thing. And instead they're just no one is listening to each other or paying attention to each other. And it was just exhausting trying to care about their relationships because none of them cared about their relationships with each other. I don't know. I thought this movie was a mix of Scott Pilgrim and WALL-E. And I think both of those films did those things way better. I think plot-wise, this reminded me so much of WALL-E, but without the things that, like, when you think of WALL-E, you're not necessarily thinking about like the robots are, taking over for the humans and stuff like that. Because the second half of WALL-E is fine. It's the first half of WALL-E that like makes an impact because of how special that is. And this one is like, oh, let's just expand on the second half of Wall-E, you know? I don't know. I found this exhausting to watch. And I did not enjoy myself. But I know I'm going to be in the minority. I think most people enjoy the experience. There's a lot of jokes. There's jokes constantly. I didn't know if any of them were new jokes. It just seemed all just tired jokes to me. Even you mentioned the soundtrack. There's great music in the soundtrack that movies have been using for those great movie moments for 20 years now. You know, like anytime there's a needle drop song, I was like, yeah, this has been used as a needle drop several times in several movies for a part like this. It felt tired to me. I don't know.
I disagree. I think I thought all this. I mean, maybe the choice of style of song was a derivative for the needle drop. I think the actual song itself was unique. I can't give you like specific examples, but there weren't moments where I was like, oh, now they're gonna play "Who Let the Dogs Out."
No, I mean, like, I don't know the names of these songs. I know you guys do, so I'm gonna just refer to them. The Kill Bill song that they play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, is that the song you referenced, like Riot Girl or something?
There was a Riot Girl style song at the beginning of the movie. Yeah,
this is more towards the end that I remember seeing in Kill Bill. It's just, yeah, all these songs are like, yeah, this is the song that played in the moment of that other movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And by the way, that song's called like "Honor Without Sacrifice" or something. So let's get it right here.
Yes. James, why don't you tell me how you liked the movie?
Sure. Well, you are probably in the minority, Zach, with your opinion in the public. But on this podcast, you are also in the minority. I loved this movie. And I understand your criticisms. I think you expressed them well enough for them to be understood, but I did not have that experience for sure. I really enjoyed myself watching this. I could not get over how obvious it was that this is made by the same people that made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because it has the exact same pacing as that movie, which kind of surprised me, Zach, your comments about the pacing, because I know you liked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that is also a manically animated movie that has a very similar pace to this one.
No, here's the difference. Into the Spider-Verse has a lot of energy and there's a lot of motion, right? Mm-hmm. Away from the camera, towards the camera, like a character moving around. This movie had fumbling energy. So everything is moving like in circles, like people are fumbling things and running it, you know, like it was fumbling energy to me. Not in any type of like direction.
You weren't seeing forward progress from the plot.
There was a lot of bobbling of you know, objects and cars and yeah. And
so maybe
don't get me started on the stakes. I mean, we're not gonna have a spoiler section, but the fact that all of these people, like everything is solved because they all happen to be super ninjas, right? Like for no reason, all of them are the world's greatest fighting machines ever.
Because it's the true power of being a mom. Wait, why are you dragging moms on Mother's Day week? Wow, Zach. Didn't realize you're so anti-mothers.
I think if I can sum it up, Zach, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying like the pacing and the frenetic visuals fit the story better in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, whereas it may have fit the story here. It was just an annoying fit for you, for your money. Is that roughly what you're saying?
I guess it fit the story in this way because we're supposed to see all these people as kind of incompetent. And so everything they do is haphazard. Mm-hmm. Whereas like in Into the Spider-Verse, it's because he's like a superhero that's learning to use his abilities and then does, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. There were times where this movie moved fast enough or moved so fast that I couldn't necessarily keep up with it. I don't know if that's an age thing or just like younger people have more experience with faster visuals than what I grew up with. But I wasn't mad at the movie for that. Like, even though I feel like I definitely missed things in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that when I watched it the second time I caught. I imagine when I watch it the third, I'll catch even more. And I'm sure this movie will be similar as well. But I enjoyed the family dynamic. I enjoyed the like unconventional dynamic. And one thing that I think probably won't age very well, but that I enjoyed in the moment is how current the movie is. Like all the references, like they pretty much said, we don't care if this is out of date in like 3 years. We're going to use the actual company names and even like issues that we have with social media and like young people being addicted to social media, those types of things that are a very real problem in our society are like front and center in this movie. Like they absolutely address it, and it's a plot point in the movie. I enjoyed all that. But really, what I enjoyed the most is just how unique looking the movie was. Like we've seen so many 3D animated movies in the last 26 years since Toy Story 1, and humans have gotten good, and animals certainly, and monsters, and just about anything you can put on screen, we've put on screen in 3D in kids' movies. And just like with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, in this movie, these humans, they were super stylized, and they looked somewhere between real and Pixar, right? Because Pixar doesn't really try to do real. It's like there was just like an extra resolution to it, an extra quality to it that worked for me. Like they somehow went right up to the uncanny valley line with the human characters and managed to not fall over the edge by giving it a little bit of style. And it's also a movie that just pops with color and energy, which might have annoyed some people. Didn't annoy me even when I couldn't keep up with it. I really loved the kind of sketchbook style that they cut into via the daughter's imagination. I thought that was a cool visualization that you don't typically see in 3D animated movies. And yeah, and I also really dug the needle drop music was fine, but I liked more the synthwave soundtrack they had running through the movie, especially towards the end when it turned into like neon Tron visuals and stuff like that. I was like,
Yeah,
I am totally on board for what's happening in this movie right now. Now
it
that
had like this
happens,
real 80s John Carpenter feel to it.
for sure. That happens to be when they kind of turn into superheroes, so I get it. If you were already annoyed with the movie by that point, that's not going to win you back for sure. But it hadn't annoyed me, and I was on board for just about all of it. At least the parts I caught. Because it does move very fast, for sure. I think Zach's Scott Pilgrim comparison is very apt. It's like a 3D animated version of Scott Pilgrim.
I do think this movie was 15 minutes too long. Like it clocked in at nearly 2 hours. And they probably could have cut it down to hour 45, and it would have been the same movie. It would have been just fine. Like for me, some of the emotional stuff between that second and third act, that's when I really like. That was kind of the obvious stuff. That was the trope I was expecting from this kind of kids movie. And I think they spent a lot of time on that in that moment, and they could have cut some of that out, I thought, and it would have moved it along a little faster.
Another thing that I thought bothered me was this is supposed to be like a dysfunctional family, right? It's the Mitchells versus the machines. But what's dysfunctional about the son? Nothing. He likes dinosaurs. And he doesn't like to talk to girls. There's nothing dysfunctional about him. What's dysfunctional about the mom? Nothing. She's a great mom. What's dysfunctional about the daughter? Nothing. The only member of this family that's dysfunctional is the dad. It's not a dysfunctional family. It's a bad father who like won't look at his daughter's video. Do you know what I mean? Like if they had truly gone for a dysfunctional family, they'd all have like their issues. But I don't think any of them had issues except for the dad. Am I wrong?
I would say that the father-daughter relationship was the core of the dysfunction within the family.
Yeah, because of the dad.
Yeah, but I think also the daughter wasn't trying to see things through the dad's eyes either.
The teenage daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the teenage daughter
she wasn't showing empathy.
She's pretty selfish, I would say.
Yeah.
She's definitely not considering anybody else's feelings, except for maybe the son's. but she doesn't. I mean, in the end, they kind of show how she's looking out for people's feelings, with the exception of the father. I would say it's a dysfunctional family. I think there's definitely varying degrees of dysfunctional families. Probably every family in one way or another is dysfunctional, right? And so I get that they weren't dysfunctional to the point of complete incapacitation, but I don't think it's a stretch to say they're dysfunctional.
I just don't see the dysfunction except the dad. If he went on vacation, I think they'd all be just fine.
You think the daughter was acting completely in the right?
Normal? Yeah.
Normal meaning what?
Like a normal
Teenagers
17,
are-
18-year-old girl.
And you think fathers don't normally act like this father acted?
This girl makes like YouTube videos, right? And the dad hasn't even seen one. He won't even watch it. She tries to show it to him. He doesn't even look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. I
Interesting.
just don't see the dysfunction, but the movie presents them as like, this is the most dysfunctional family ever.
I'll give you that they're not the most dysfunctional family ever. Like, The Incredibles are more dysfunctional in this family.
Yeah.
I'll
And they're
gi-
pretty good.
I'll give you that the movie presents them that way, but they're also presenting them that way from the perspective of the daughter. It's not like the movie's saying they're dysfunctional, other than the title. Well, even the title doesn't really say dysfunction, but the movie itself is mostly from the perspective of the daughter, especially in those setup moments when they're like pausing the frame and throwing graphics on the screen that say, dysfunctional family of the year and stuff like that. That's from the perspective of the daughter, not necessarily like the movie claiming they're the most dysfunctional. But I get it.
I guess for me, the lack of dysfunction didn't hurt the experience. Obviously, for you, Zach, you wanted more dysfunction, maybe the mom yelling some more, or I don't know.
No,
like,
I just
you,
didn't.
you wanted Hereditary meets Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
No, I actually didn't. I didn't know why bill him as that. Why just be a family, that's fine. They can learn lessons along the way, kind of a thing. But I didn't think
they could
that
just be
this-
the imperfect family.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I what was the mom's issue? She baked. I think she cooked food a lot.
Oh, you're really reductive to mothers today.
No, you tell me. What was the mom's foil? Tell me about this character. Tell me more about the mom character that you got invested in.
Well, she has awesome ninja skills that she's been hiding for all these decades.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I don't want to litigate a movie that doesn't exist, but let's say they gave everybody more to do, right? They showed a little more dysfunction in each character, made a little one more, peppered them a little more interestingly in that way. Do you think you would have liked this movie? Or was the pacing and the jokes and all that stuff it just
here's
a
the
mixture that, I mean, is the dysfunction thing really the problem with the movie? Or is it
what
the
I'm
style
saying
of
is-
presentation?
What I'm saying is, if they painted the characters a little bit more,
Mhm.
they would have been forced to slow down a little bit.
Hmm.
And this
And-
movie never takes a break, never takes a breath.
Yeah, and not do jokes type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, there were a lot of jokes. It's like, is this a novel idea? Or is it, I'm like, oh, an evil tech company. They would say it as if like we're not. I don't know, as if it's a new thing that like we don't trust Silicon Valley companies.
yeah. The dog and how the robots reacted to the dog very, very much reminded me of Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where they have like
And it was good as the joke, right?
yeah.
But then they kept doing it. Like
Right,
that was
they
a joke.
kept
That
it
was a
going.
plot point.
Yeah. That's a plot point of Mars Attacks also, which I know you love that movie, Zach, so.
For sure. And just in general, I mean, my movie taste is I don't tend to like movies where Mr. Magoo type movies where like everything goes wrong for them, but they kind of bumble their way through.
Mhm.
It seems just unmotivated success.
Yeah, and I would say there's a good bit of that in this.
Yeah.
For sure.
It definitely has the trope of like we've almost achieved our goal and we just missed it and everything's falling apart. And how do we bring it all back together?
Okay,
Yeah.
but I have poo-pooed on this movie enough. Why don't you guys chat a little bit about how this movie is great?
You know, I do actually have a nitpick pet peeve with this movie also.
Let's tear it apart and then give it 4 stars,
Yep.
Kyle.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a 5-star movie, but no, it's not. But here's my no. So I have a very specific movie pet peeve, and that is characters in movies who drive stick shift cars who should not know how to drive a stick shift car.
That is a
And-
very specific pet peeve. I'll give you that.
It's a very specific pet peeve, but it is one of mine. I only have found this in a handful of movies, and I have a new one to add to this list. Because in this movie, like during a chase sequence, the dad is like, "Okay, by the way, go sit in the back seat. This is how a stick shift car works." And then later in the movie, she is like full on Mad Max Fury Road driving this stick shift car all over the city. And like, no, you can't learn how to drive stick shift by just like watching someone do it for 10 seconds.
Totally unrealistic movie. Totally unrealistic.
And the only reason this is a pet peeve of mine is because I pretty much had to teach myself as an adult how to drive stick shift. And it wasn't something you pick up in one go.
Yeah. Sure. That's true. I mean, I learned how to drive stick as well. I haven't done it in 20 plus years, but it is more difficult than just watching somebody do it for 30 seconds. I agree.
Exactly. Yep. Anyway, that's
yeah.
my that is my soapbox. I have a list of movies where characters drive stick shift who shouldn't, and I'm going to add this to that list.
Oh, is this an official letterbox list? Can't wait.
It's official up here, and I think I'm ready to make it official on Letterboxd.
Nice. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say positive about it other than I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with the movie. I'm looking forward to rewatching it in a year or so, and I really wish I had seen it in a movie theater. I think it would have been amazing on a big screen. I think Zach would have been annoyed even more if this was like on a giant screen.
It was just
playing in front of him.
exhausting to watch. It was just
Right.
so exhausting because you couldn't look away for a second.
So imagine it on a 40-foot screen where you like could not
James-
escape its gaze.
James, I'm genuinely curious because I do not know the answer to this.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I'm hoping the answer is a certain one just for your sake. But did
Okay.
you laugh during this movie?
Yes. Not throughout it, but
I
there were
laughed.
a couple moments I laughed.
Well, Kyle, of course you laughed because you watched it with your son. I think that would be a great way to watch this movie is with your son. I appreciate that. What did you laugh at, James?
I don't know. Mostly like Eric Andre and his meta jokes about social media and like, oh, you should, of course, you're going to trust tech companies type of thing. Yeah, I enjoyed his character, laughed a couple times at different moments with him. I mean, there weren't a bunch of moments where I got hearty laughs that I'm going to remember the rest of my life, but most movies that I find funny don't have those moments in them. They're just in the moment. Something about the execution tickled me for a second. I can't remember a specific of any other time, but I definitely love the Eric Andre character and didn't get much out of the father character. Really, the father and the daughter I thought were the least interesting characters from a humor perspective. When the kid ran away from the girl at the beginning, the dinosaur kid, that
Yeah.
made me laugh out loud. Not like for 30 seconds, but I audibly laughed to myself as I watched it alone in my condo. Imagine if I was in a movie theater full of laughing people, I probably would have enjoyed it even more.
If you were in a
honest.
theater full of laughing children, Zach, you too would be laughing.
Possibly. I don't know.
I'd be getting coronavirus probably.
You can laugh through an N95 mask.
But I don't think it's not worth us interrogating Zach why he should like it. And it's not worth
No.
him trying to justify why we shouldn't, because I think it's just a movie that's like very specific, has a very specific style to it, and that style is not going to be for everybody for sure. And I'm cool if it's not for Zach. I think it's, for me, I'm not sure I could watch a ton of these just because the pacing is so fast. Like I don't think I could watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and this one back to back. I think that might actually give me a headache to have to like concentrate on a cartoon for that long. But as little kind of like bite-sized entertainment pieces, one every 2 or so years, I'm into it. I think it's a style. I hope they make more in this style for sure.
I think if the animation wasn't that Lord Miller Spider-Verse influence style, this would lose a half star for me, because I think plot-wise it's kind of a standard kids movie, but the fact that it's not just your standard 3D animation that we've seen for the last 25 years, as you said, elevated it for me.
So to me, the animation style reminded me much more of the Lego movies than it did of Spider-Verse.
Which is also Chris Lord and Miller.
Exactly. Yeah. To me, it was much more like the Lego movies in that those had a kind of chaotic energy to them as well. And I thought what carried me through that and actually made me enjoy the Lego movie was the novelty of it's all made out of Lego bricks and, you know, the nostalgia and that kind of thing. I have never been tempted to watch more Lego sequels. You know, I watched the Batman Lego movie, but I think there was a Lego movie too that I never desired to watch just because once the novelty wore off, I wasn't interested in that kind of chaotic energy. This movie, to me, James kind of nailed it. It kind of was Pixar style animation with a little bit more kind of rough edges and then the 2D stuff added in, which I appreciated. I like the 2D stuff just because it was a kind of a new incorporation into the art form, you know, which I was fine with. But I don't think this was a huge departure from like a Pixar style as far as look at the characters, at least. Maybe, you know, on the edges kind of a thing.
I don't know. I think if you put this up against recent Pixar movies, I think this has a look I think the Pixar movies have a look. It's the Pixar look, and this looks different to me. A Pixar look is great. I don't have a problem with Pixar movies for sure. But I think with this, Sony is quickly defining a style for them. And it's a good style. It's not a DreamWorks style that feels lesser. It feels equal, in my opinion. Now, the storylines might not be equal, or the classic nature of the stories they're telling, maybe they won't stand the test of time as well as the good Pixar movies do. Like Inside Out, I think is a movie that in 50 years will be just as relevant to kids as it is today. Will the Mitchells versus the Machines? Probably not. Probably half the jokes will be dated. You know what I mean?
Did this family... How was this family different than like The Incredibles? Like looks wise?
As far as like familial makeup, you mean? Or
no, just
in
like, character design. Like that you have the heavy set kind of dad, like top heavy kind of dad. In my memory, they look very similar. Just one has a beard.
It is like physically, yes, these characters do resemble The Incredibles. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I'm not sure in personality they're an exact match.
No. And the dog was giving me real Hey from Moana vibes.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen that one. I don't remember that reference, but
okay. It's the chicken, the rooster.
Anything else on the Mitchells versus the Machines? Should we?
I loved it. 5 stars.
We turned you around? Yes.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
You
guys
know,
got me.
I hate this now.
I will give it my letterbox grade of 4 stars. I enjoyed it.
3.5.
1.5.
Ouch.
Wow.
A 1.5, a 3.5, and a 4 for the Mitchells versus the Machines. We have a list this week. It's our top 10 dysfunctional movie families. So not a specific movie, although maybe it might be just one movie that these individual families were in. But in my list anyway, some of them are families who were in a series of movies. Is that how you guys did your lists as well? Like sometimes it's just a movie, sometimes it's a series.
I picked individual movies, but some of my movies do have sequels or prequels or something like that. So I guess you could group them, but I try to choose one from that series.
Gotcha. And I also did not rank my list personally by how much I enjoy the movie. Pretty much all the movies on my list I enjoy in one way or another. I ranked them more by how dysfunctional they were.
I did that as well.
I did a little mix of how much I like them and how dysfunctional they are.
Cool. Why don't I go first? This is our top 10 dysfunctional movie families. My number 10 is the Griswolds from National Lampoon's Vacation series. I'd say primarily Christmas Vacation, just because I've seen that movie. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've seen it. Probably 20 plus times, maybe much more than that, because I watch it every year around Christmas time, at least once, if not more. And I've seen the other ones. I've seen Original Vacation and maybe European 2 or 3 times each, but really it's about Christmas Vacation for me. The Griswolds are fairly dysfunctional. I mean, they're not destructive to each other or anything like that, like no long-term damage, but generally they're all kind of on their own page, and generally they're all very selfish, and over the course of every movie, generally they come together and realize they like each other. And that's kind of the formula for a vacation movie. It's a formula that I generally enjoy. My number 10.
Nice. Well, my number 10 is the Addams Family. And I have it as 10 on my list because I think they're only dysfunctional from the outside looking in. Personally, I think their family is very loving towards each other and they work really well. I mean, I would say it's a functional family from an in-family perspective. I just say it's dysfunctional from the outside because, I don't want them. I'm not. A
You don't want to normalize this family.
Yeah, I don't want to normalize this family. They're actively hunting people and killing animals and doing awful, horrible things, but just as a family. So that's great for them. But I would say the family unit is functional, but as a family, it's dysfunctional.
I'll have you guys know I just reordered my list on the fly to try and go least to most dysfunctional.
Okay.
To follow your waves. So we'll see how well this holds up. I'm also taking a little bit different tact. I looked at more at the movie itself than like the family, so I don't know the family names of all these movies. So my number 10 is The Family from Uncle Frank, which is a movie that came out last year, which I really liked, which I don't think got a lot of play or talk outside of being an Amazon release, but I thought it was a really good movie. And this stars I don't have this in front of me, a woman who plays a teenager, and she befriends her uncle, played by Paul Bettany. This takes place in the 70s, who she learns is gay. And they have to return to their family home in the South for a funeral. And it's all about, him returning home. He has not come out to his family. His niece knows their secret, and all the dysfunction that surrounds, him being home for this funeral. I think it's a really good movie. And it definitely should have, I personally think it should have got a little bit more, at least notice in the 2020 year.
You've mentioned this movie a couple times since you've come weekly on the podcast.
It may have been in my top 5 or 10 for 2020.
All right. What's in my watch list? I'll bump it up. You obviously like it because it keeps coming up for sure. My number 9 is the Buckmans from Rachel Getting Married, which is I
considered it
an indie drama that is an interesting movie. It's literally about the sister of a woman named Rachel who's getting married, and the sister is who's the actress that plays? It's not Natalie Portman. I get her confused with the actress who played.
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway, yes. Anne Hathaway plays the sister of Rachel, and it's kind of like it's the day before and the day of her sister's wedding, and she is kind of the negative family member, I would say, or the one that's like the trouble kid, maybe. Not necessarily that she gets into trouble, but just she's I don't know, the disagreeable one.
She's coming out of rehab.
Yeah, she's the disagreeable one for the most part. And so the movie is presented in an interesting way in that, like, from scene to scene, you just kind of move in and out of these conversations. And sometimes they're talking about something completely different at the beginning of the scene, and then they move into a topic, and then they move into a third topic, and that transitions you to another scene. And it's just kind of a movie that flows in an interesting way with good performances and lots of family dysfunction on display, I would say. My number 9.
Nice. Well, my number 9 is a movie we reviewed relatively recently. It's from 2020, Hillbilly Elegy. And this is based on a memoir of an Appalachian family. And yeah, I would say the family is fairly dysfunctional. I think the mom almost killed her son in a car accident, and the grandma's crazy. But yeah, it's not a movie I particularly enjoyed, but the family definitely, they're all codependent and have issues.
Definitely.
Yeah. My number 9 is a movie from 1949 called Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah, thank you. I've also been looking for excuse to talk about this movie on the podcast, so this seemed like a good time to slip it in.
It's like multi-generational family. This is great.
Yeah. So it's about a man who basically learns that he was supposed to inherit a fortune, but then through marriages and other happenings, he basically gets pushed out of this fortune and becomes 10th in line to inherit it. And he decides that he wants to get back what's rightly his, so he goes on a plot to kill all 9 cousins that are ahead of him so that he can become head of the household. So it's kind of a dark comedy in that sense, but here's the real reason to watch this movie. Alec Guinness plays all 9 of the cousins. So every time he meets a new cousin to knock them off, male or female, it's Alec Guinness playing a different character. And I mean, he's great. I think, we all know Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's probably his most famous role. Number 2 is going to be from Bridge Over the River Kwai, I would assume. I think this is one of his best performances because he's doing both drama and comedy, and he's playing 9 different people. James, I do think you would like this movie.
It's really funny.
Yeah. It's called Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Cool. I will add it to the watch list. My number 8 is Another Family of Buckmans. Different spelling, but Rachel Getting Married was the Buckmans. This movie is also the Buckmans. It's the Buckmans from Parenthood. It's an 80s movie I've talked about a bunch. It's in my top 10 films of all time. I enjoy it quite a bit. And there's lots of hilarious familial dysfunction displayed throughout the movie. It's a little soapy here and there just because it hasn't aged perfectly, but I love it. And it's my number 8.
Awesome. My number 8 is Knives Out.
Good choice.
This has a patriarch of the family who dies, and then all of the kids are just kind of swatting at each other and sniping each other, trying to get the money and accuse each other of murdering him and all sorts of, intrigue, but definitely dysfunctional family.
Agreed.
Great. My number 8 are the McAllisters from Home Alone, and I guess Home Alone 2.
Definitely good pick.
And this family is so dysfunctional that they don't forget their son not once, but twice. And it seems like 2 Christmases in a row it happens also. Like, you think after it happens the first time, you would kind of be aware on the second time.
Is it in a row?
They're both Christmas movies.
The next year.
Yeah, I assume it was the next year.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah. I mean, you think they would have tethered that kid to one of them that next Christmas, but they didn't. And I mean, Home Alone's great. It's a movie that it came out at the perfect time for me. I think I was more or less the same age as Macaulay Culkin when that came out. Watched it a ton. Watched it not too long ago, and we all remember Home Alone for being about like all the traps, but that's like the final third of the movie. Like the first 2/3 is much more of like a comedy drama, which is great. So there's a lot more to the movie than just cool traps.
My number 7 is the Torrance family from The Shining, which is definitely a dysfunctional family, I would say. Although I would say that the father is really the only one that's dysfunctional. So I don't know. Maybe it's not dysfunctional if only one member is dysfunctional. But yeah, if you know anything about The Shining, it's hard to argue that this family is not functioning properly. My number 7.
Yeah, it helps if you have a insane murderer in the family to make the whole family dysfunctional.
Agreed.
My number 7 is Kramer versus Kramer from 1979. And this is a Dustin Hoffman, Meryl Streep film. And it's kind of the text of the film is that it's a couple going through divorce and fighting over custody of their kid. And it's a movie that I don't think I've ever mentioned on this show, but it's a well done movie, a drama from the late 70s, and it certainly illustrates some dysfunction between the couple.
My number 7 is the aforementioned Rachel Getting Married. I think, James, you hit on a lot of good points with Anne Hathaway kind of being this tour de force who just sort of every scene she's in just devolves. It's almost like a cringe watch because you're just watching her on screen, not on purpose, but just kind of tear everything down at something that's not about her. It's her sister's wedding, right? Like she's not Rachel, her sister's Rachel. But one thing, and you kind of mentioned this too, one thing I found unique about this filmmaking is every scene seems to start like 30 seconds before a normal movie scene would start. And it ends like 30 seconds afterwards. Like they just kind of let the camera roll a little bit early and then let it roll a little bit longer. And it kind of gives us this different feel to it.
Definitely. My number 6 is really the only one on my list that's not like a traditional family. It's the family from the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Whoa.
That franchise is all about family, and it's super dysfunctional. I mean, they're They're stealing each other's cars. They're narking on each other with the cops. They're double crossing each other. They're dating each other. They're, it's people are dying and coming back to life. I mean, it's a
Jason Statham kills one of them and then becomes a member of the family.
Right.
Yeah, because
exactly.
they're so welcoming to everyone.
Yes,
that's
very welcoming.
Justice for Han.
Yes,
they only double cross each other when A, they're forced to by the bad guy, but it's really a double cross, or B, there's amnesia involved. Let's be clear here.
Well, I'm just saying they end up to being pretty functional, but I think overall the drama in the series is how dysfunctional they are. And that's what makes them interesting, and that's what makes them my number 6.
I considered it, and I was like, no. They get along way too well to be dysfunctional.
That's ludicrous.
They keep saying, you can only save the world so many times as a dysfunctional family. You gotta function, right?
All right. My number 6 is a more dysfunctional family than that. It is from the family from Dogtooth from 2009.
Yeah, I considered that.
So in this movie, dad wants to protect his kids from the outside world, so he doesn't let them leave their walled-in estate. They're kind of never taught to be anything but like children, and they're just these childlike adults that have no idea about the outside world and what's normal. And that's pretty dysfunctional and manipulative of the father.
My quick hot take on Dogtooth. I didn't care for that movie. 2 reasons. A, it's just not a pleasant world to exist in.
True.
Like, it's not fun to watch.
True.
Which is fine. Like, not every movie has to be fun. But it also felt like 2/3 of a movie. Like, we had a first act, a second act, and there wasn't really a third act. Like, there was a lot of development of ideas, but there wasn't didn't go anywhere with it.
I'm so grateful it stopped when it stopped. I do
Same
not
here.
want to see the next 10 minutes.
See, I guess
Same
that's
here.
that's where we differ. I wanted to see the next 10 minutes.
No, because what are the next 10 minutes going to give you that is revelatory?
Resolution.
No, if you saw the next 10 minutes, it'd be the first 20 minutes of a conventional film, and I'm just not interested in that.
All right, that's totally fair.
That's my hot take.
I agree with Zach.
I know I'm on the minority in that one, but this is how I feel. My number 6 is the family from Cinderella. And I guess
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, in this case, Cinderella, it's her step family. I get, her father died, and she's left with her wicked stepmother and her wicked stepsisters, and they treat her like dirt. But in the end, she finds her Prince Charming and prevails. And there you go, Cinderella, number 6.
Now I feel like I should have put The Little Mermaid on this list.
That I limited myself to one Disney movie.
Okay.
Because a lot of Disney movies have dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
My number 5 is the Skywalkers from Star Wars. They're pretty dysfunctional. I mean, you got the father trying to kill the son trying to kill the father. You got the sister and the brother kissing. There's a lot of dysfunction going on in that series amongst the Skywalkers. And that's why it lands on my number 5.
Can I ask a question?
You've got
Sure.
the nephew trying to kill the uncle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you
Yeah.
count the Marvel movies or
The
movies.
Disney ones? I mean, they're canon.
Eh,
When George Lucas wrote the script that had Leia and Luke kiss, did he already know in his head that they were brother and sister, or
No.
he just figured that out later? Okay.
He had an idea of a framework for more movies when he wrote the first one, the fourth one technically. But yeah, it's not like he had it all planned out. He kind of built upon that.
Did he know that Darth Vader was Luke's father when he wrote the first one?
I think he knew that. I'm pretty sure he knew that because it's like inspired by an existing story.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is Hidden Fortress a similar plot? I know Hidden Fortress visually inspired a lot of Star Wars. I don't know if plot-wise also.
I don't remember which one, but there's like 6 or 7 movies that he points to, and one of them has like this father-son story where the father's
Okay.
behind a mask and the son doesn't know that it's his father, and those types of things.
My number 5 is The Lion in Winter, which is a movie that between Kyle and I, we talk about a lot,
Yeah.
apparently. It's from 1968. It's the story of Henry II and his 3 sons, one of them being King Richard. That's how I first discovered the movie. But there's such a dysfunctional family. They're all sniping at each other and swatting at each other. It's just constantly they're yelling at each other and talking behind each other's backs and scheming, and it's great. It's really great.
Yeah. I considered it, and I left it off because I knew you'd probably put it on your list, and I think I talked about it pretty recently.
This is a movie you made me watch, Zach, I think because it was on your top 100. Is that why? I don't
Okay.
remember.
Sure.
But at one point I watched it. I'm sure it was at your urging, and I gave it 3 stars. Evidently,
That's a positive rating.
it's a positive rating, barely.
You liked it.
My number 5 is The Birdcage from 1996. So in this movie, you have Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, and they are a gay couple, and their son is getting married to Callista Flockhart, whose parents are played by Gene Hackman and Diane Wiest, and Gene Hackman is a conservative Republican senator. And this is, now that their children are getting married, this is a time for the parents to finally meet. And Robin Williams and Nathan Lane kind of are coerced into playing a married hetero couple instead of being their true gay couple selves. So right off the bat, that's your setup for comedy and dysfunction. It's a movie that I really enjoy. I think it's really funny. I do wonder. I don't think this movie would be made now. I think it would be probably considered problematic or maybe stereotypical derivative at time. but it's definitely a movie that I used to watch a lot as a kid. My wife likes it too, and it definitely has some great moments in it.
My number 4 is the Corleone family from the Godfather trilogy. Just pretty dysfunctional family.
They are.
Classic movies. If you've seen them, you know all about the dysfunction. Generally good movies. I mean, the third has some pretty major issues, but overall, good movies and very dysfunctional. My number 4.
Nice. My number 4 is the Royal Tenenbaums. The plot description for this
so
movie
obvious.
is the eccentric members of a dysfunctional family reluctantly gather under the same roof.
Is Kyle throwing shade at Zach's pick? Did you say it's too obvious?
So obvious. I purposely left off that movie.
Wow. Somehow I
didn't say
squeaked
that
through
to
with
Star Wars.
I squeaked through with The Godfather, but the Royal Tenenbaums is obvious.
Well, there might be a reason why one squeaked through and not the other.
All right, let's hear Kyle's non-obvious number 4 pick.
My non-obvious number 4 pick is The Shining.
So non-obvious, it's already been mentioned.
It's already been mentioned. Yes, obviously, having a murderous, supernatural influenced father will drive any family to dysfunction. But it's not like Jack Torrance was a perfect father going into that situation. Like, we learned that, he's an alcoholic, that he injured his son while being drunk already. Like, there already were the seeds of dysfunction in that family, and the hotel just really blew it all out.
Wait, can I ask a textual question about this movie?
Yeah.
Was he supernaturally influenced?
I mean, he's talking to ghosts.
Is he actually talking to ghosts?
Yeah, in the bathroom, he talks to the old
lady in
keeper.
the shower.
No, well, yeah, there's an old lady in the shower. In the bathroom, he talks to the old keeper who axe murdered his daughters, who are the ones that the twins that they see in the hallway. He's, talking to the bartender. So yes, I believe that this is not it's in your head movie, that this is a supernatural. The door gets unlocked for him. Like, he is literally in a locked room that he can't get out of.
I think
the hotel unlocks the door.
I think it's supernatural just because he's not the only one that sees things in the hotel.
Yeah.
Like the kid riding around on the tricycle sees things.
Well, the kid has The Shining.
No, but Shelley Duvall sees things too.
Okay.
Yeah, they all see things. I think something's going on in the hotel. For sure.
Yeah.
My number 3 is the Armitage family from Get Out, which is kind of the host family
Yeah.
that the Daniel Kaluuya character, or that his character goes to. It's his girlfriend's family. He's going to spend the night at their house, or an afternoon. I don't remember exactly the setup, but that's a pretty dysfunctional family. I won't get into details for those who haven't seen Get Out yet, although I don't know who that would be. I assume if you wanted to see Get Out, you would have seen it by now. But pretty dysfunctional family in kind of interesting ways, like in non-conventional ways. They are dysfunctional to the core, for sure. Or maybe they do function well together. I don't know.
Yeah. Pretty functional.
Maybe they are a functional family. I don't like what they're functioning on, but maybe they are functional. I don't know. My number.
I mean,
3.
they seem to be pulling off pretty well up until that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay, my number 3 is from 1991. It is Nothing But Trouble. And this is the judge and his family. The judge is played by Dan Aykroyd. And he has 2 twin grandsons that are mutant children that scare and torture visitors. And the judge is just an awful kind of vigilante judge. And that whole family is awful.
Everybody's a monster in that movie, basically.
Yeah, some literally, some figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's notorious. Should I see this movie?
Yes.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think you'll think it's good, but you will think it's interesting, and you will see a
Okay.
lot of actors from the time in a movie that you've never seen. That is just it's a movie of insanity, I would say.
I'll put it on my list.
I
What?
hated it.
Watch it with your kid.
I'm planning on watching this whole list with my son.
Perfect.
Right. My number 3 is the aforementioned Corleone family. I specifically chose Godfather Part 2 because that's when the dysfunction, I think, really kicks in. You've got Fredo and his relationship with Michael, and then also Michael's relationship with his wife, played by Diane Keaton. Like, things start to really fall apart in the second one for the Corleone family.
Agreed. Good pick, Kyle.
Yeah, James.
Not obvious
I
at
think,
all.
No, and good job on you too. I really liked your pick earlier.
I agree. It's maybe the best pick I've heard all night. My number 2 is the Cleek family from The Woman. I doubt either of you have seen this movie, but it contains a very dysfunctional family. They are out in the woods, and the father and son discover a feral woman out in the woods. They can't catch her, but they decide after going home and talking with the wife that they are going to go back into the woods and capture this woman. And they go into the woods and they capture her and they put her in their storm cellar and tie her to the wall and try to tame her. And the movie gets very twisted. It's a Lucky McKee movie who made that movie May that I think Zach was all right with. I'm not sure you loved it, but you were okay. But it's basically that style of movie, but like without some of the quirkiness of May, just kind of like a straight twisted horror movie. And it's good. If you're into those, it's good, but it is a disturbing movie with a capital D. So know what you're getting into. And it's definitely like the whole family's in on it. The idea of taming this feral woman. And so I would definitely categorize them as dysfunctional. My number 2.
Well, I haven't seen that. My number 2 is, I mean, it's got to be one of the most dysfunctional families on any of our lists. And I don't think you guys have it. But it's got to be Throw Mama from the Train.
Okay. It's pretty dysfunctional.
This is Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal are brothers, and they decide to try to murder their mom, played by Anne Ramsey, who's also the mom in the Goonies crime family.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, as you can, Danny DeVito in anything is dysfunctional. Like, you know, I could have put Twins on this list. I could put any Danny DeVito movie, I think. Always Sunny in Philadelphia would be on this list if it was TV shows. But Throw Mama from the Train, very dysfunctional family. If you're trying to kill your mother with your brother, I think that's dysfunctional. Also, Oprah's in this movie.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Nice. My number 2 is the Graham family from Hereditary. And when we meet this family, they're already not getting along. Toni Collette's, who's the matriarch of the family, her mother has passed away and had her own influence on her family and her kids. And then something happens to the family about a third of the way through, and things really fall apart for them. And this is a movie that totally could have been a horror drama movie. I think where it lost me a little bit was that third act, or like the final, when it went really weird at the end. I think that was a bit of a departure. It kept the same tone. It just got a little out there without trying to spoil anything. But definitely the first 2/3 of this movie is a more or less just a family falling apart drama.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. My number 1 is the unnamed family from Dogtooth, previously mentioned. Dogtooth. Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, of any movie I've seen, by far the most dysfunctional family I've ever seen on screen. Like in ways that we really haven't even mentioned, I would say, just because it's so disturbing. some of the things that happen in this movie, and it's the parents literally don't give their kids names in this movie, and they intentionally teach them the wrong words for things, and they shield them from any life experience whatsoever, essentially. Like, they're just trying to give them zero life experience. They're sheltering them in every way imaginably possible, and over the course they're just completely destroying these kids from the inside out, I would say. And it's very disturbing, but very well made, very effective movie at what it's trying to accomplish. And for those reasons, it's easily my number one most dysfunctional family I've ever seen on screen.
Good choice. Good choice.
Here's why Dogtooth's a bad choice. Let me educate you guys.
Okay.
Wow. I'd
All
love
right.
to hear this.
So, dysfunctional family, right,
Yeah.
means the family does not function.
Yes.
Correct? All right?
Yeah.
In Dogtooth, that family is functioning exactly how the parents want it to.
Nope.
It is at the beginning
parents
of
did
the
not
movie.
want the kids to decide what they did.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what they wanted.
If there was a third act, maybe learn more about that.
No, it's definitely, I mean, that's what the first third of the movie is setting up how much control they have over the kids.
Yeah.
And then leading up into the second third, you get a lot of like, oh, this is how the kids are subverting it. This is how the kids are getting hints that there's like a bigger world out there, and maybe things aren't exactly as presented to them. And then by the time you get into the third, they're actually executing on getting more access to the outside world. And we'll leave the rest for people who haven't seen Dogtooth. But I do agree. There's kind of a fourth act to this movie that just doesn't happen. It's implied without giving you the details to it. And I'm perfectly happy with that ending, personally.
Well, that's a terrible number one pick. Let's hear yours, Zach.
Well, I think mine is a film that you like less than Dogtooth.
Okay.
You'll have to tell me if you prefer Dogtooth or Kajillionaire.
Oh, man.
But the family in Kajillionaire is certainly dysfunctional. It's the parents are Richard Jenkins and Deborah Winger, and the daughter is Evan Rachel Wood. And they're a grifting family that makes small hustles in petty crime, and the parents do not care about the daughter in any type of loving way. Everything is transactional with them, and the daughter certainly feels worthless and hopeless until she's given some real human connection from an outside person. But yeah, very dysfunctional family.
All right, I'm going to Sophie's Choice this year. And I'm going to go with Zach's pick.
As your
the better
least
pick.
favorite or the better pick?
As the better pick. As if I liked one of those movies more.
Oh, okay.
And here's the reason why. You get that Evan Rachel Wood in the normal world story. Right? You see her living within her dysfunction of her family, but then you also see her with Gina Rodriguez trying to live that normal life. And you do not get that from Dogtooth.
I mean, those kids don't have the opportunity to live a normal. They don't even know what a normal life is. They think their life is normal, and over the course of the film, they discover it's not. So,
well, so does Evan Rachel Wood. But I'm just saying. So, James, people write movies, and they can make decisions on what story they want to tell.
Yeah, but Evan Rachel Wood lives in the real world. She sees normal people, and she's choosing to be with her parents.
So, Kyle, you would say a family is more dysfunctional if they spend part of their time outside the family being functional.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah, I didn't follow that either.
Can you use the word functional more in that sentence, please?
So, Dogtooth is a movie where they're 100% in a very dysfunctional family. But because Kajillionaire is a movie where they're sometimes in a dysfunctional family and sometimes get to have somewhat normal relationships. And you think that makes it more dysfunctional?
Yeah, I think the Kajillionaire family is more dysfunctional than the Dogtooth family.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, that's...
Just because I don't think the parents in Kajillionaire are as calculating as the parents in Dogtooth. Like
Okay.
they have an agenda, but they're also just mentally ill.
I think it's apples and oranges. I mean, they're very differently toned movies, and the extremities of the two are very different. Yeah, they're both movies that are definitely about dysfunctional families, I would say.
Well, I'm just trying to delay because this is the best pick. This is going to be the
Is
best
your family
dysfunctional
more
family.
dysfunctional than either
I'm
of
ready.
those?
I think it is. And this is the sisters from Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Never seen it.
They're pretty dysfunctional.
They're pretty dysfunctional.
That's pretty bad.
Okay, yeah. So this movie is starring Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. And Betty Davis plays a girl who was a big actress when she was 6. And it's not just them that's dysfunctional. Their parents are dysfunctional too. Like their parents give their 6-year-old daughter anything she wants. Like she becomes a spoiled little brat. And Joan Crawford plays her older sister, who becomes a more well-respected and known actress when she's like 18. So like when the younger daughter kind of isn't a thing anymore, the older daughter becomes the big actress. An accident happens and the Joan Crawford character is in a wheelchair, and we fast forward like 40 years in the future, and now you've got Betty Davis having to take care of her older sister and just resenting her for the fame that she has and everything around that. And it's this is, I would say, is up there with some of the best gaslighting dysfunctional movies you could see.
Yeah, and it's helped by the fact that they hated each other in real life as well.
Yeah, correct. It was a real life feud also put on screen. But Betty Davis is amazing. She's playing this 40-year-old woman who still acts like a 6-year-old. It's eerie and awesome.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that they used to separate out Best Cinematography Awards at the Academy Awards for black and white movies and color movies? They used to give out 2 awards.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either,
No.
but Whatever Happened to Baby Jane won the award for Best Costume Design. And got nominated for cinematography. But evidently they separated out costume design for black and white as well.
Oh.
Wait, so
crazy.
it's best costume design in a black and white film?
Yeah, it's Best Costume Design in a black and white film. It won for that.
What
It
year?
was nominated. 1962?
60, yeah. And I mean, early 60s was when you had that transition. At some point in the early 60s, you went from majority black and white to majority color.
Yeah, I wonder how many years they did that.
That's a great question. Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
I'm gonna fact check you right now.
Okay. I mean, it might just be the way Wikipedia is presenting the information, but I don't normally
yeah, you're
see
totally
them.
right. There was a black and white and a color category.
Does it say how many years they did that?
So it was started in 1948 was the first year that they had this category at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they continued to split it up way longer than you would think. They stopped splitting it up in the 60s.
Well, I mean, no, that makes 62 was Baby Jane, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was the last black and white winner for cinematography.
Was that 66?
66.
Okay.
Another contender for this list, by the way.
I forgot to include that one, but I'll make it an instant honorable mention.
Perfect. Great list, guys. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Well, thank you for listening to this episode 478 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, check out the video version on YouTube. Follow the podcast, support the podcast on Patreon. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. And also follow us on social media in general. You can follow the podcast on Facebook. You can follow us on Letterboxd, although there's not much there. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. Pretty much you can follow us anywhere except for TikTok. I think that's the only account we don't have. Zach's going to start it any day now, though. He's going to put some sweet, sweet dances on there. No?
James
He's shaking
says
his
that,
head
but
no.
well, I know a secret about James, so I'm not gonna
What's
gonna
the
say
secret?
anything.
That I have a TikTok account? That's true.
Yeah.
But I'm not dancing on it.
No,
We don't know.
He's just watching other people dance on it.
Not yet, anyway. Yeah, if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can find me at YoJRB on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Schaubin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Nice. We will be back next week. I'm not sure what with, but I'm sure it'll be great. We'll see you guys there. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.